fishermen obviously do not want to catch whales. When they see a whale approaching the net, they can do things to prevent that from being an entanglement. Commercial fishing is going to have an interaction with the animals. They're in the same place at the same time. Whether the animal stumbles across the gear, doesn't realize the gear is there because it's cryptic, maybe targeting the prey that's in that gear. Let's say you have a long line with a sablefish hooked on. You might have whales focused on that catch. They're sort of competing in that regard. Hawaii and Alaska are connected by the animals, humpback whales, the same subpopulation of animals, as well as our goals, our objectives here. You know, entanglement threat is one of the major threats for humpback whales and many other large whales, for that matter.
There's just a myriad of ways that animals can become entangled in gear.
It's towing the boat.
Our large whale entanglement program focuses on animals that are in distress because of interactions with gear. This could mean rope or line around their flukes, around their fins, through their baleen.
The commercial fishermen are trying to make a living, and they also want to have the best care of their gear. And these guys are real pros. They know what they're doing. And they watch whales. Many of them have grown up on boats, and so they don't want their gear to get tangled up around a whale either. And most commercial fishermen that I know really have a love for whales. So they work pretty hard at looking at techniques and ways to keep whales out of their gear.
The gill net is set along the coastline, and that's where whales are cruising along those shorelines looking for their food. If a whale blows through a net and puts a big hole in it, it's a loss for the fishermen as well in terms of their catch. The best thing a fisherman can do to avoid a whale from getting into its net is just be vigilant and monitor the net 24 hours a day.
Fishermen can do everything from banging the side of the boat to putting it in and out of gear, basically making noise to let the whale know that the gear is there.
When whales come into your net area, it's better off to pull tight on your cork line and take something and smack that, you know.
When I see one, I'll just start running back in front of my net.
Yeah, like tapping the side of your boat with a picking hook and
Run up and down your net,
or just towing on your net.
just so they know it's there.
You know, kind of like an old string in a can when you talked into it.
I think the pingers are probably a good idea.
What we have here is an acoustic alert, a pinger, that a fisherman would attach to the gear to let whales know, specifically humpback whales. This one is at 3 kilohertz, which is the range of hearing, right in the center of range of hearing of humpback whales. So it let humpback whales know that that gear is there, so we'd avoid the gear and we wouldn't have an entanglement. Now, this one's made by Future Oceans. It's from the Innovation Center there in Australia. This is a company that's working towards helping fishermen not catch whales.
Pingers emit a high frequency which is picked up by most whales and dolphins. The frequency acts almost like an alarm underwater, and by putting the pingers onto the nets and acting as alarms, the whales and dolphins avoid contact with the nets.
There are some concerns with the acoustic alerts in that there might be too much sound in the ocean, so we have to be careful in that regard. And there's several studies underway, both here in Australia, that are looking into this. You know, we're not just going to throw these out in the ocean, we're investigating their use. And there's high hopes, though, that this will do a lot towards preventing entanglement threat for these large animals.
Humpback whales still have a lot of mysteries. I can go out on one day and find they're doing something totally different than I ever expected. And so they're always surprising me. And there are a lot of mysteries out there for humpbacks, sperm whales, you name it. I don't think we're even close to finding the answers.
Many of the populations of whales are growing, and humpback whales would definitely be an example of that.
They're increasing at probably 5 to 6% a year, which is for every 100 whales one year, you'll have 105 or 106 whales the next year, meaning that they are increasing at a pretty good clip.
This issue of entanglement, the interaction between the animals and the gear, is likely to grow. Just by the probabilities alone, more animals encountering that gear is going to increase the entanglement threat. The Sanctuaries Program mission statement is to protect our oceans. Here in Hawaii, the primary coordinator of the large whale entanglement response effort is the Hawaiian Islands Humpback Whale National Marine Sanctuary. Up in Alaska, that primary coordinator is NOAA Fisheries, the Protected Resources Division up there in Alaska.
The issue of large whale entanglement in Alaska is an emerging story. Our next chapter in this story is focusing on prevention and solution building.
For me, I think what needs to happen is for industry and the management or the government agency that's responsible for managing the species and scientists to come together and really identify and acknowledge that there's a problem, that a solution needs to happen.
If we can't save iconic species such as whales and dolphins, what can we save? These are the most beloved animals in the oceans today.
What tools do we have in our toolbox to make it work and make that change happen so whales aren't caught in gear, that they aren't killed, and fishermen can still have an economic future in fisheries in Alaska?
I would love it if we figured out what was going on, what was the gear and how did they get caught in the gear? Maybe acoustic alerts are the answer. Maybe that alert system would really reduce the rate of entanglement. I would love that and be out of a job of cutting whales free.